as the golden rays of graduation. Morning bathed the university campus in light. Michael felt a wave of relief wash over him. He had not only completed his studies, but was also filled with love for the woman who was about to become his wife. With happiness sparkling in his eyes, and a firm belief that their destinies were intertwined, Michael and his beloved Charlotte exchanged solemn wedding vows in their cherished garden of love. Their first child, a beautiful rosebud named Evan, arrived as a blessing, filling their hearts with indescribable joy and a renewed sense of purpose. Evan's smile, mirroring his parents' happiness, became the sunshine that brightened their home every morning. 5 years later, another bright star, Sarah, entered their family constellation. With her sparkling eyes and infectious laughter, she added a new layer of joy to their lives. The family thrived in perfect harmony, enjoying days filled with love, laughter, and mutual understanding. However, just 6 months after Sarah's birth, a shadow of despair loomed over this idyllic family. Charlotte, the devoted mother of Evan and Sarah, Michael's loving wife, and the heart of their family, was taken from them unexpectedly. A cruel and relentless illness stole Charlotte away, leaving an unfillable void in Michael and his children's lives. The pain was nearly unbearable, and their once vibrant home became silent and steeped in grief. Michael found himself alone, navigating the turbulent waters of widowhood, while striving to be a safe harbor for his 2 children, who were also suffering from the loss of their mother. The man who once shared every joy and sorrow with his wife now bore the heavy weight of raising his children without her. The happiness of their past felt like a distant memory in light of the harsh realities of his present. He had become a widowed father, a solitary beacon for his children amid the darkness of their grief. The financial rewards from Michael's grueling work at a small tool shop were meager, barely sufficient to keep a roof over their heads and food on the table. Each day was a struggle for survival, with every penny counted and every expense scrutinized. Observing Michael's difficulties, a kind neighbor, Mrs. Coleman, an elderly lady with compassionate eyes, offered her assistance. "Michael, Evan is getting older. I can look after him after school. It's not much, but it's a start, isn't it?" Her offer provided a glimmer of hope for Michael. However, young Sarah was still very small, a delicate flower requiring constant attention. "Clara," he replied hesitantly, "caring for such a little one is a significant commitment. I'm not sure you'd be able to manage that." Determined to ensure Sarah's safety and well-being, Michael decided to bring his daughter to the shop with him each day. "Don't worry, Mrs. Coleman. I'll take Sarah with me. She'll be my little helper at the shop," he assured, attempting to mask his anxiety. As time passed, Sarah grew deeply attached to her father. The tool shop became her playground, and Michael transformed into her hero. Their shared moments, despite the challenging circumstances, only deepened their bond. Eventually, as Sarah grew older, Michael successfully enrolled her and Evan in a local preschool. Sarah, as sweet and charming as ever, quickly adapted and won over everyone around her. Her radiant smile became a ray of sunshine, brightening Michael's somber days. However, Evan was grappling with his own struggles. The loss of his mother and the hardships of life had left him silently rebellious. He became withdrawn and resistant, a sharp contrast to his sister's gentle disposition. Michael looked at his son, yearning to find a way to reach him and calm the storm brewing within. Time flowed like a steady river, and young Sarah blossomed into a diligent and compassionate young woman. She became her father's indispensable assistant at the tool shop, eagerly participating in every facet of the business. "Dad, let me handle that. You look exhausted," she would often insist, taking a cloth to wipe down the tools or rearranging the shelves. At home, she embraced numerous responsibilities, cooking meals and keeping things tidy, providing a calm and reassuring presence amid life's chaos. In contrast, Evan, the eldest son, took a different path. His teenage rebellion led to frequent troubles, and he appeared disinterested in his family's well-being. His life was characterized by incessant conflicts and reckless behavior, blatantly rejecting the order and stability that Michael tried to uphold. Despite his sorrow over his son's actions, Michael did his best to avoid confrontations. "Evan, please try to behave. I know it's tough, but we need to stick together as a family," he would plead, his voice a blend of frustration and hope. Evan's lack of gratitude and rebellious attitude became a source of frustration for Sarah. She, who deeply admired her father for the relentless efforts he made to support the family, began to resent her brother. "Evan, why do you have to be so difficult? Can't you see how hard Dad is trying?" she challenged him, her eyes filled with indignation. But no matter how much she attempted to reach out, it felt like Evan was slipping further away, sinking into a pit of rebellion and bitterness. On Evan's 18th birthday, a milestone often viewed as a gateway to new opportunities, he demonstrated utter disinterest in following conventional paths. The thought of attending college seemed confining to him, and the idea of working at his father's tool shop was something he decidedly rejected. During the birthday dinner, Michael cautiously broached the topic. "Evan," he started, gripping the cutlery tightly, "have you thought about what you want to do now that you're officially an adult?" Evan rolled his eyes, irritation spreading across his face. "I don't want to go to college, Dad, and I definitely won't work at that shop. I have my own plans," he replied curtly. Family dinners, once filled with unity and joy, devolved into heated arguments and misunderstandings. "You need to consider your future," Michael insisted, his voice echoing in the dining room. "You can't just drift aimlessly. Life requires planning and effort." Sarah sat quietly, feeling a knot tighten in her stomach as she observed the exchange. The tension between her father and brother was palpable, only escalating with each passing day. Disagreements became an unwelcome norm in her life, overshadowing the peace of their home. As Sarah approached adulthood, she carried the excitement of going to college, while Evan, a few years older, continued to wander through temporary jobs and nights fueled by alcohol, appearing aimless and without purpose. The growing divide between the siblings deepened the already fragile state of their relationship. One particularly sweltering day, Michael found himself alone at the tool shop. He climbed an unstable ladder in the stockroom to retrieve an item from a high shelf. Unfortunately, he lost his balance and fell from a significant height. The fall was catastrophic, resulting in a spinal injury that left him incapacitated and in excruciating pain. Sarah received the news while preparing for a final exam. Her student's joy was swiftly replaced by overwhelming panic. She hurried to the hospital, finding her father pale and in agony, awaiting emergency surgery. With a heavy heart, she picked up her phone and called Evan. "Evan, it's Dad. He fell in the shop and injured his spine. He's in the hospital and needs emergency surgery," Sarah said, her voice quivering on the other end of the line. Evan replied with a lack of interest. "I'm working, Sarah. I'll be there as soon as I can," he said, showing no urgency in his tone. However, when he finally arrived, it was the following day. And to Sarah's dismay, He was clearly intoxicated. Their argument was fierce and filled with accusations. Tearfully, Sarah confronted her brother. "You don't care, do you? Dad is lying in a hospital bed, and you don't care." Evan, unable to cope with her words, simply turned away and left, leaving Sarah to grapple with her pain and worry alone. Michael's recovery was expected to be a long and grueling process. Doctors indicated he would be bedridden for an extended period, unable to handle the daily operations of his tool shop. Meanwhile, Evan showed no interest in taking over the family business, while Sarah was preparing to start her college journey. As if things couldn't get worse, the hospital bills were accumulating rapidly, adding another layer of stress to the already overwhelmed family. In a moment of deep anguish, Michael made the heart-wrenching choice to sell his cherished business, as he could no longer manage it. "I never wanted this to happen, Sarah," Michael said, his voice thick with emotion. "But I can't see any other option. We need the money for the hospital bills, and I can't manage the shop anymore." Sarah, sharing in her father's sorrow, tried to comfort him. "Dad, I understand how much the shop means to you, but sometimes sacrifices are necessary. We will get through this together." Michael felt a surge of gratitude for his daughter's empathy, but a wave of sadness washed over him at the thought of giving up the shop that had been his passion and livelihood for so long. Closing that chapter of their lives would be a difficult transition, but they both knew it was the only choice they had to tackle the challenges ahead. Sarah had always been a steady and caring presence during his recovery, while Evan seemed like a distant figure, avoiding any meaningful connection with their father. On a pivotal day, Sarah had an important interview at the university. With the house now just for Michael and Evan, a pressing issue arose. Michael's essential medications had run out. Anticipating Evan's negative response, Michael reluctantly asked his son to go to the pharmacy. "Evan," he began, trying to sound authoritative, "I need you to pick up my medications. They need to be taken before lunch." Evan scoffed, clearly annoyed, but eventually relented. "Fine, but I need the money." Michael instructed him to get the necessary cash from his safe, handing over the key with a frown. Evan left the house, but he returned well past lunchtime. Sarah was already home, furious at her brother for his delay, while Michael, despite his frailty, tried to remain calm. "Evan, why did you take so long?" Michael asked, attempting to keep his tone neutral. "None of your business," Evan shot back, glaring at his father. That attitude was too much for Michael to tolerate. "Evan, why are you so resentful? What have I done to make you this angry with me and your sister?" Evan's reply was cutting. "Because you always favored Sarah. You took her to work and left me with the neighbor. I was never good enough for you." Michael tried to reason with him. "Evan, I was doing the best I could back then. I was desperate." But Evan was beyond listening, consumed by his rage. When Sarah attempted to defuse the situation, Evan stormed out of the house in a fury, leaving a wake of hurt and bitterness behind him. This time, he didn't return. Later that evening, with Sarah's assistance, Michael sat down in front of the computer to pay a bill. He pointed out where the key to the safe was and asked her to retrieve the necessary cash. Sarah returned, holding the key, her face pale. "Dad," she said, her voice shaking, "the safe is empty." Michael stared at her in disbelief. "What? Empty? How can that be? All the money, everything we got from selling the shop, it's gone?" The impact of the reality hit him like a physical blow. His gaze drifted to a distant point as he contemplated the consequences. That money was supposed to be their lifeline, set aside for bills, physical therapy sessions, and the medications he required. Now, it was all gone. "I'll call the police," Sarah said, snatching up the phone, fierce anger igniting in her eyes. "No," Michael interrupted, his voice more resolute than he felt. "No, Sarah. We can't do that." "But Dad..." He stole everything. We need to understand what happened, Michael insisted, cutting her off. I can't bear the thought of my son in jail. The sadness in his eyes was palpable. Deep down, I feel guilty, Sarah. I feel like I let Evan down. I should have taken better care of him and been more involved in his life. So, even in the face of betrayal, Michael chose to prioritize his love for his son. The pain of their loss was profound, but the thought of seeing Evan imprisoned was unbearable. The family found themselves teetering on the edge of despair, as if the ground had been pulled out from beneath them. Without any income, their once bright future now appeared dim and uncertain. Sarah, feeling the weight of the world on her shoulders, made the difficult decision to put her college aspirations on hold and search for a job instead. With a touch of uncertainty, she enrolled in a nail design course, trying to find a way to rebuild. Her first clients were met with a palpable nervousness, but with each nail she painted, her confidence and skills began to grow. It wasn't long before a local beauty salon recognized her talent and offered her a position. Sarah embraced this opportunity to shine. Her dexterity and creativity quickly attracted a loyal clientele. As her reputation grew, so did the demand for her work. She received invitations to teach courses and give lectures. Seizing these chances, she used her earnings to open her own beauty salon. The business flourished and thrived. During this time, Michael was undergoing physical therapy, gradually recovering from his accident. Witnessing his daughter's success filled him with inspiration and a renewed motivation to reclaim his life. By a fortunate turn of events, they learned that the man who had purchased Michael's tool shop was struggling and had decided to sell it. With her newfound financial resources, Sarah chose to help her father buy back the shop that had once brought him so much pride. With a beaming smile and eyes brimming with gratitude and determination, Michael embraced his daughter, ready to embark on this new chapter together. 5 years had passed since Evan's tumultuous departure, taking all of the family's savings with him. On this particular day, Michael was out handling some banking errands, a routine activity that brought him no discomfort. However, as he walked by a beggar sitting on the sidewalk, a broken yet familiar voice pleaded for change. A chill ran down Michael's spine. That voice, it was unmistakable. Heart racing, he slowly turned to face the beggar, and the sight before him made the ground feel unsteady beneath his feet. Evan, his son, sat there, unrecognizable. The youthful energy that once defined him had vanished, replaced by alarming thinness and a scruffy beard. Michael's heart shattered as tears streamed down his face. Ignoring the curious stares of passers-by, he knelt down and enveloped his son in a tight embrace. Evan, his voice hoarse and filled with regret, asked his father for forgiveness. He recounted how he had left home, determined to forge his own path apart from his father and sister. Shortly after his departure, however, he suffered a severe accident that led to the amputation of one of his legs. Michael felt a lump rise in his throat. He hadn't realized Evan was missing a leg, as it was hidden beneath an old, tattered blanket. Evan continued, explaining how he had reached out to friends for help, only to be met with rejection. Overcome with shame for what he had done, he had never contacted his family. As he listened to Evan's story, a wave of sadness and despair washed over Michael. But he knew it was time to extend a helping hand to his son, regardless of the past. With tears in his eyes and his heart full of emotion, Michael looked at Evan and said, "Evan, come with me. You need a place to stay, and this cold street isn't where you belong. Come home." His voice was soft, yet it carried an unwavering resolve. What would you do if you were in Michael's position? Share your thoughts in the comments. However, upon returning home, the reception was far from welcoming. As soon as Sarah saw Evan, she erupted in anger. "How could you bring him back, Dad? He robbed us, left us in despair, And now you treat him like nothing ever happened." Her words flew out like flames, her face flushed with rage. Evan's condition, with one leg amputated, seemed to affect her not at all. Her fury was aimed squarely at the betrayal her brother had inflicted upon the family. Michael remained calm amid the storm of emotions, looking at his daughter and then at his son. "Sarah, I understand your anger, but he's still our blood, and he needs help." He attempted to reason, but his daughter was resolute. Realizing that he would need time to persuade Sarah, Michael made a decision. He turned to Evan and said, "Evan, I know this isn't ideal, but I think it's best for you to stay in a hotel for a few days." He reached into his wallet and handed Evan some cash. "This should cover your stay for a bit. Meanwhile, I'll talk to Sarah. Let's try to work this out in the best way possible." Despite the tension, Michael held on to the hope that, with time, the family could heal and come together again. As the new day dawned, Michael, filled with both hope and apprehension, headed to the hotel where he had left Evan the night before. However, when he arrived at the front desk, he was informed that his son had never checked in. "I'm sorry, sir, but we don't have a guest named Evan," said the receptionist, flipping through the registration book. Heartbroken, Michael returned home, his spirit heavy and his thoughts in disarray. Upon entering the house, he was met by Sarah, her eyes ablaze with indignation. "So, Dad, did Evan actually check into the hotel?" she asked, already anticipating the answer. Michael shook his head, deep sadness marking his features. "He was never there, Sarah," he admitted, his voice thick with emotion. "I knew it," Sarah erupted, her words cutting like daggers. "Even with one leg, he still hasn't changed. I bet he took your money and went straight to a bar. You need to forget him, Dad. He's a lost cause." Michael's heart ached at his daughter's harsh words. He understood that Sarah's anger sprang from the pain of Evan's betrayal, but the bitterness in her tone was hard to bear. "He is still my son, Sarah," Michael murmured softly as he retreated to his room, sorrow accompanying each step. Over the next 3 years, the family adapted to their new reality. The business prospered, and life, despite its challenges, continued on. Yet, for Michael, there was always a palpable void, a missing piece in his life, the absence of his son. One day, a sealed envelope addressed to them appeared in their mailbox. Inside was an invitation. They were to visit Evan. The writing was formal and somewhat cold, and the lack of details left Michael and Sarah feeling uneasy. The tone was so grave that they immediately feared something was wrong. Perhaps Evan was injured or gravely ill in some distant hospital. With heavy hearts and anxious minds, they rushed to the provided address. However, instead of a hospital, they found themselves at an upscale restaurant. The elegance of the venue, with its sophisticated decor and the soft hum of polite conversation, felt entirely out of sync with the dire scenario they had envisioned. Confused and slightly bewildered, they approached the maitre d', who greeted them with a warm smile. "Mr. Michael, Miss Sarah," he said, "we have a table reserved for you." He gestured gracefully toward the main dining area, inviting them to follow him. The oddness of the situation was unmistakable. They exchanged bewildered glances, but with no alternative, they followed the maitre d' to their assigned table, completely unaware of what lay ahead. Then, out of nowhere, Evan appeared, a commanding presence. His attire was sharp and sophisticated, a stark contrast to the disarray of his past. He walked with a sleek, modern prosthetic leg where his amputated limb once was. Michael and Sarah gazed at him, their eyes wide with a blend of shock and confusion. Sensing their astonishment, Evan took the initiative to speak before they could ask anything. "When Dad dropped me off that day," he began, "I realized Sarah was correct. I had to take action to rebuild your trust." He proceeded to share his journey. explaining how he had taken the money Michael had given him for a hotel and instead found refuge in a simpler place. With the money he saved, he got a haircut, purchased suitable clothing, and began looking for work. Despite his disability, he managed to secure a position at a call center, which allowed him to support himself. Still, Evan felt restless. He aspired for more. He used the remaining funds to enroll in a programming class. This field intrigued him, and he committed himself to studying diligently, often late into the night. Eventually, he landed an internship at a company that quickly recognized his potential and offered him a job. With this new employment, his earnings improved, enabling him to obtain better prosthetics. He thrived in his career, and over time, his salary continued to rise. Moreover, he began teaching programming courses, further boosting his income. As Evan recounted his experiences, Michael and Sarah's expressions shifted. Their initial shock morphed into a deep admiration as they absorbed the remarkable transformation in their son's life. When he finished his story, Evan leaned down to grab an old leather briefcase resting beside his chair. With a solemn and determined look, he placed it on the table and opened it to reveal a substantial amount of cash. "This is the exact sum I took from our family," he stated, sliding the briefcase toward his father. I truly apologize for everything, for my actions, for the hurt I caused. I hope to be part of our family again, if you'll allow me." His words hung in the air, met with a profound silence. Slowly, with tears welling in their eyes, Michael and Sarah nodded in unison. No words were necessary to convey their feelings in that moment. They stood up together and enveloped Evan in a heartfelt embrace, creating a familial bond that had long been fractured. Yet on that emotionally charged night, another revelation was on the horizon. The painful memories were starting to fade, replaced by a growing sense of forgiveness and healing. But no one could foresee what would transpire next. Evan glanced toward the restaurant entrance and made a subtle gesture. A young woman entered, radiating warmth and the unmistakable essence of motherhood. She was visibly pregnant, and as she approached the table, her hands tenderly cradled her belly. "This is Lila," Evan said, taking her hand and guiding her to the table. "Lila is a physical therapist who helped me adjust to my prosthetic. She stood by me, believed in me when I needed it most, and now we're expecting our first child." A moment of silence enveloped the table as the news sunk into the hearts of Michael and Sarah. Tears flowed freely from Michael's eyes, a testament to the overwhelming emotions he felt. Suddenly, the void he had experienced for so long began to fill. Not only had he reconnected with his son, but he was also on the verge of becoming a grandfather. A whirlwind of forgiveness, regret, and hope swirled within him, and all he could do was weep, tears of relief and joy streaming down his weathered face. Now, the lives of Michael, his daughter Sarah, and his once wayward son Evan had found harmony once more. Evan had evolved into a successful individual, ready to start a family with his beloved Lila. Meanwhile, Sarah, who had sacrificed her college education to support her family, now owned a flourishing beauty salon. Michael, who had previously been forced to sell his tool shop, was back in business. Thanks to his daughter's support, the family's happiness was beyond words. They were united again, with Evan proving that he was worthy of the trust his father had placed in him. The son, who had once rebelled and run away, had returned, stronger and more determined than ever. The father and daughter, who had once felt abandoned, now looked forward to a bright future. The icing on the cake was the news of Lila's pregnancy. Michael was overjoyed at the prospect of becoming a grandfather, While Sarah eagerly anticipated her role as an aunt, the family felt whole again, and their joy was palpable. This family's journey serves as a reminder that, even in challenging times, we should never lose hope in our loved ones. Though it may take time, every effort will eventually yield rewards. Michael's family faced numerous obstacles, but ultimately came together, emerging stronger than before. Evan's transformation from a rebellious youth to a successful man illustrates that everyone deserves a second chance. He took his mistakes to heart and worked diligently to make amends with his family. This story is a testament to a father's unwavering love for his son and a daughter's fierce commitment to keeping her family united. Despite the challenges they encountered, they never wavered in their resolve and continued to fight. In the end, they achieved the happy ending they had longed for, together again, filled with happiness and contentment. Although life tested their patience and resilience, they triumphed, proving that the love and unity of family can withstand even the fiercest storms. If you enjoyed this tale, please give it a like and share, and don't forget to check out the next story appearing on your screen. Until the next video, thank you for watching.